Hey guys, it's that time again. Time for your weekly Wednesday spark. I don't know about you ladies, but when I look around the world, it is evil everywhere. You cut the news on and you hear about another school shooting, another mass shooting in a grocery store or in a convenience store, or somewhere that we travel on a daily basis, somewhere that we wouldn't expect things of that sort to happen. And I find myself thinking, why in the world are my kids having to grow up? I hate the thought of my kids growing up in this evil. I hate it. I do. And there's so often that I think, what can I do to prevent them from being around all this evil, to keep them away from it? And there's nothing we can do, because God has given Satan dominion over this earth. And until God calls us home, we have to be a part of this world. But we don't have to agree with this world. We have to be in it, but we don't have to be of it. And so when I think about my kids, and I think, so many people say there's no way I'd have a kid in this world today. And, I find myself thinking, if I didn't have 3 small children, I wouldn't have kids either. But I do. I have 3 small children, and I know that God placed them here at the exact time that He placed them because He can use them. He created them to be used by Him in a way that I can't understand. And Queen Esther in the Bible was put on the earth at the exact time that she was, so that she could be used in a grand way. And in the book of Esther, as it comes to this man named Haman, who's plotting to wipe out the Jews, and the Jews were God's people, of course. Mordecai, who is Esther's cousin, he confronts Esther because he finds out what Haman's plan is. And so he lets Esther know, hey, this man is evil and he's plotting to wipe our people out. And so Esther, I'm asking you, I'm challenging you, I'm letting you know, this is what God put you here for. And He says to Esther, in Esther chapter 4, in verse 14, he says this. He says, "For if you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will rise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you have not come to the kingdom for such a time as this." So, ladies, when we worry so much about our children, they were placed on this earth for such a time as this. They can handle things that we don't realize they can handle. But it's our job to be like Mordecai and to raise them up to know God, to raise them up to put their faith in Jesus Christ, to raise them up to know that no matter what evil this world throws at them, God has them. And Esther was given the opportunity to go before the king when she was not invited in. And back in those days, the king could have had her killed, because she wasn't invited in. But she trusted God. And she knew that God placed her there for such a time as that. For such a time as to walk before the king and let the king know what was happening. And you know what? Because God was with her and because she followed God through what He asked her to do, the king accepted her. And she saved her people. Guys, our children, yes, they're growing up in a pretty dark world. But we have to shine the light of Jesus into them. We have to share Jesus with them. We have to pray with them. We have to tell them about the Bible and tell them about the things that Jesus has done for us in our lives. And what better way than to let them see you living out what God has called you to do. Because you know what? He's made you a mother or a grandmother or a father for those you guys watching, or a grandfather for such a time as this. It's our job to pour into our children. It's our job to stand strong and be like Esther ourselves. And when God says move, we move. And we don't hesitate. Yeah, we might be a little scared. Yeah, we might have a little bit of doubt. But it's when we move in spite of that. It's when we follow God faithfully, even while being fearful, that He's going to show up in a great and mighty way. So how do we combat this evil that is running rampant in our world? We pour the love of Jesus everywhere that we go. No matter who it is, no matter where we find ourselves. We be like Queen Esther, and when God says move, we move. When God says speak, we speak. When God says stand strong, we stand strong. What can they do to us? Dare I say it, the worst they could do is kill us. But we would go home to be with Jesus. So ladies, if we want our children to grow strong in faith in this world, we have to show them what that means. We can tell them until we're blue in the face, but until they see it from us, until they see us living out what we're preaching to them, it will mean nothing. We have an opportunity to change the next generation. It starts in the home. It starts with you, Mama, Grandma. It starts with you, Daddy, Grandpa. Take them to church all you want to. But until they see you living it out, it's going to mean nothing. So I'll leave you with this. You were put in the position you are as mother, as grandmother, for such a time as this. Pour into your children and your grandchildren. Give them hope in the darkness. The hope, the everlasting hope that is Jesus Christ. That's the only thing that's going to sustain them in this dark world. So I challenge you, ladies, stand up, speak, be an Esther. Pray for your children to be Esthers. Goodbye and God bless.